Soy chunks are becoming my go-to for quick and delicious vegan meats. I feel like these aren't as well known as other plant-based meats, so today we're making chicken, we're making ham and beef, all under 15 minutes with just a few seasonings, and I'll even give you some ideas on how to use it. But before we get into that, we're gonna need a little intro to our new friend, the Soy Chunk.
You can think of him as the big bro to traditional TVP crumbles. It's made out of the same stuff, it's just bigger and has a better bite. Listen, TVP is great for making ground vegan meat, but when I want something hearty, this is what I reach in my cabinet for. So to whip these up into tender, juicy chicken bites, start off by adding 3 cups of water to a pan, seasoning with salt the same way you'd salt your pasta water, generously. Once boiling, add 110 grams or 2 heaping cups of your chunks. I'm using these hearty plant protein chunks from my friends over at fakemeats.com, who are today's sponsor, but more on them later. Give them a little stirry stir to get them all dipped in the salty spa water. After 5 minutes, they will have soaked up most of the seasoned water and be tender, but still firm, which is exactly how we want it. Drain your future chicken bits and let them sit there while they cool. Once they won't scald you, squeeze the water out. You can be pretty aggressive here. And once they don't have more than a few drips coming out when you squeeze real hard, it's time to finish them. Now to an oiled up and preheated pan, do the pan dance. Critical step, and add your Bali boys to the pan and immediately stir. They might stick a little, but that is okay, keep scraping it off. Eventually these will soak up the oil as they are just mini flavor sponges at this point. Since the chunks soak up the oil, using a high quality oil is preferable here. Our goal is to char these up just a little. And when most of them look like this, it's time for seasonings. Hit it with a half teaspoon each of onion powder, garlic powder, and poultry seasoning, which is basically just a mix of herbs and spices. I'm using this as a shortcut. And then immediately mix that all up and cook for about another minute to get these seasonings mixed and toasty. Some will stick to the pan, that's okay. Deglaze with a glug or 2 of rice vinegar, but any vinegar will probably be just fine. And bam, chicken chunks. The texture is pretty incredible and the taste is really pretty wildly like chicken. Put it on pizza like I did here, put it in grain bowls, aka salads, like literally whatever you want to put chicken on. Next up is Beefy Bites, which will turn into a slammin' cheesesteak. Same sitch here, bring 3 cups of water to a boil, but this time we're not gonna salt the cloud juice. To get that beef color and to start to put some of that umami flavor together, we're adding a few glugs of soy sauce. Once boiling, give the water one more whiskaroodle to disperse the soy sauce and then pour in your future beef. 5 minutes later, just as with the chicky bites, much of the water will be absorbed and then you drain, cool, and squeeze. How easy is that? Then add to a preheated and generously oiled pan, char them up a bit. For these, we'll also add in a half teaspoon unpow, half teaspoon gar pow, stir that up to toast the seasonings, and then to add even more beefy flavor, we're gonna deglaze the pan with 2 to 3 generous squirts of vegan Worcestershire sauce. Once added, make sure to always scrape down the pan once the hydration is added to get those flavor bits I'm so fond of back in the food. Once the sauce has been soaked up and evaporated, these bad Larrys are ready to eat. I felt like a cheesesteak today for lunch, so I set aside the cooked chunks, chopped up and sauteed some peppers and onions in the same pan, added the beef chunks back in, popped on some vegan cheese slices, covered to melt.
And while that's cooking, let me show you an even easier way to make this with plant basics, plant-based seasonings, which you can get from today's sponsor, fakemeats.com. After adding onion and garlic powder to the chunks, I made a BAM flavored version by using both plant basics, plant-based beef, and ham seasonings. Get it? Because it's like a mix of ham and beef.
BAM!
They've got chicken, beef, and ham seasonings, all made with basic ingredients, and I keep finding uses for this every day. They work great as a way to flavor seitan like I did in my super simple deli meat video, and I've been loving making pasta with meat sauce using the beef seasoning and their plant-based crumbles made from pea protein. Along with their crumbles and their chunks, they also have classic grounds and strips. All of their textured proteins are made from a single ingredient. And right now there's an exclusive sale for Bold Flavor Vegan viewers. Get 15% off Plant Basics plant-based seasonings through July 2023, so don't miss out. Use coupon code BOLD235 only on on fakemeats.com. Links and codes are all in the video's description. Thanks again to fakemeats.com for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the recipe.
All right, looks like the cheese on our cheesesteak is melted and ready for the next step. Give it the old shimmy sham to make everyone friends, and then add to a toasted bun. Gently mayoed the top bun, crowned my king, and enjoyed. It was so good I rebooted. Listen, these beef bites just with the chicken, just use your imagination and put them on like all sorts of stuff. I don't think there's a limit to the applications here. Like pizza, for instance. Speaking of which, next up is ham. So slammin', you're gonna wanna ham it up. To make this same starting steps as always with these, boil water, salt the water, and bring to a boil. You're starting to see a pattern here, right? Optionally, before adding the chunks, you can bust out your food dye and add 2 drops of red food coloring to get more of a hammy look. Once that is boiling, give it the old boogie woogie to disperse and add in your future ham. 5 minutes later, once they're tender, drain and squeeze them out, then add them to a preheated pan. Oh, God. It's okay, everything is okay. Now this is why we squeeze out the water. If you get lazy on the squeeze, like I did here, you're gonna end up with hot oil flying around. Not ideal. Once your pan is cool enough to not have the oil be angry with you, add them per usual, seasoning with a good pinch of salt. As always, we're gonna add the half teaspoon of unpow, half teaspoon of garpow, and then to get that ham flavor, add in a half teaspoon of sugar up in here. Stir and toast, deglaze with some Worcestershire sauce, and we're ready to buy our .biz domain, because we're like, you know, in business. All right, let's test this out on some pineapple and ham pizza. On top of a dough, add your sauce, grated cheese. In my video testing the best ways to melt vegan cheese, I found that grating slices is the best way to get a really good melt. I'm not sure why, but it just is apparently. On top of that, add your chunks. I roughly chop them to get a better surface area. Pineapple, of course, and then launched it in the oven. After 4 minutes in the oven, I turned it and broiled it for another 2. After the cook, it held together really well in the oven and didn't dry out. And gosh darn boy, howdy was this freaking good. I'm pretty sure there is nothing these chunks can't do. Thanks again to fakemeats.com for making this video happen. And again, use code BOLD235 over at fakemeats.com to get 15% off their plant basics, plant-based seasonings. And while you're at it, you can stock up on these plant-based chunks too. Thanks again for watching, y'all, and until next time, be nice to each other and keep cooking.